Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your consistently inconsistent hosts.
I'm John.
And I'm CC, and this is a show where we review all the anime series from the previous season we did and didn't watch start to finish. Well, here we are again, 1 week late, and I have to apologize again, though this time I have a better excuse than last time. So as life goes, I was actually hospitalized pretty much directly after our last recording. And as much I'd like to say it was because I got into a badass anime fight with a giant mech or something, no, I just had a dumbass bicycle accident because my old ass bike decided to literally fall apart while I was sitting on it. I fractured my cheekbone, got a concussion, some cuts and bruises, and I dislocated one of my shoulders. All that good stuff. So, whoops! Still, all things considered, I got away pretty damn lucky. And we'll just file this under shit happens and move back into the gloriously colorful world of anime. Because if I dish out any more real-life wine today, I'm obligated to hand out cheese as well. And I just emptied my fridge, so I'll let Sean feed you our first review for today instead.
So yes, it's one unfortunate accident after another, sort of. So we're going to talk about Masamune's Revenge, very much off-color rom-com, as it were. Let's talk about the particulars first. It was animated by Silverlink, and they actually seem to put in a modicum of effort for a show that wasn't Fate Collides Line or Prisma Ilia. Because, sometimes if it's not Ilia, they just are kind of like, it's whatever, just, it's done. Okay. It's good. So the show was originally, or I should say the original manga was created by Hazuki Takeoka, who did the story, and an artist who goes by the name Tiv.
Okay.
Just Tiv.
I guess that's a pseudonym?
I would assume. I couldn't really dig up anything other than just Tiv, so...
All right. What has Tiv done except for this?
Apparently he or she has also done... They. Yeah, well, I'm trying to be politically correct.
Yeah, I think they is pretty much accepted now.
I mean, it is, but if a lot of people say, get both in there, that's some technical rating for you out there.
Okay. Oh, good to know.
Tiv did apparently original character designs and idol incidents. Woof. Woof. The character designs in Masamune's Revenge are better, at least. And did, some of those fancy end card illustrations for If Her Flag Breaks in Sasami-san at Ganbaranai.
Never heard of that.
It was pretty weird show, and I say weird because it was animated by everybody's friends at Shaft. That will probably color your idea of the animation style, because it was a really stylish show that I enjoyed. A little weird in the story department, but it was still fun. It was directed by Mirai Minato, who's done Prisma Ilia in the past. And the composition and scripting was done by two people, Michiko Yokote and Kento Shimoyama, who between them have done stuff like Bleach, Blue Dragon, Buso Renkin, Cowboy Bebop. I mean, not any of those names aren't names, but that's probably the biggest one on this list. Dagashi Kashi, Genshiken, Mr. Osomatsu, No Game, No Life, Servant Service, Working. So, there is talent that has worked on, big name stuff before. And the music is done up by one of our friends, Tatsuya Kato, who we may know from stuff like Buddy Complex, Prisma Ilia, Food Wars, Free.
Mm-hmm.
So the staff on the show is solid. Like I said, I'll get to what I think of it, in terms of animation in a minute. So let's talk about the plot, because it's a thing. So, once upon a time, this kid, Masamune Makabe, is hit with rejection by the love of his life, Aki Adagaki. He was, very young, just, very portly-looking kid. He's called Pig's Foot by Aki.
What the hell? What kind of insult is that?
Aki likes to just demean guys who are into her by just making up names on the spot that are like... it's a thing she does. And some of the names are like, wow, lady, chill, come on.
So she can be really mean with that? Because Pigfoot doesn't really sound that mean unless he was, I don't know, fat or something.
He was an overweight child.
Ah, there you go. Okay. But
yeah, Masamune, also listeners, I hope you will excuse if you hear my sister's dogs making noise. I don't know if my mic just picked up one of the dogs stretching and groaning.
Oh, okay. That sounded a bit like a growl. I wasn't sure.
Anyway, sorry about that. But Masamune resolves to change himself and his self-image by working out and improving his study habits in what seems to be a stroke of fate, because it doesn't seem premeditated as far as I could tell in the storytelling. But Masamune transfers to this new school, and he discovers that Aki is a student there. But she doesn't seem to remember him, mostly because, he has changed his self-image and whatnot. And he takes this chance to try and win her over once more. So he can enact his vengeance and dump her in the worst possible way, because that's the way you do it.
Okay. Well, that's kind of I wouldn't say... Well, it's dedicated. It's kind of mean to just do that, and he could be the bigger man, and be like, okay, she was being an asshole, but maybe she changed or something, and
she hasn't.
Oh, okay.
That's the thing. As soon as he walks on the campus, she's already demeaning some guy, and it's like, oh, okay, all right. So you're exactly the same as you were.
So you would say she, deserves what the intentions that the main character has for her?
I mean, maybe. Yeah. It's one of those things where the best laid plans often go awry.
Oh,
and
okay.
And Masamune, he's just making up all sorts of contingency plans as he goes along.
So is it like a Wile E. Coyote thing where his plans always fail in a spectacularly comedic way?
A little, I wouldn't say spectacularly, but he ends up falling flat on his face a lot.
Okay.
Basically, it's a question of will he get his revenge, and more importantly, will he want to follow through with it?
Yeah, that's I mean I don't want you to spoil anything, because of for our listeners, but well, I assume that they interact so much that he takes a liking to her from a certain point on, or something in that regard, and maybe she changes her character as well, or their interactions change her character a bit for the better as well. Because this sounds a bit like a screwball romantic comedy from the setup. Yeah,
a little bit.
Okay,
but I mean, it's like I said, it's sort of a rom-com of a different color, because it starts off being like, wow, you were both still like the worst human trash.
Okay.
But maybe you're not. Yeah, that's why I said both of them. I think his plan, even though we don't really see it through to the end, because I'm gonna tell you up front right now, the ending is sequel bait as hell.
Oh, okay. That was I was also about to ask next. Like, is this there room for a sequel? Is it closed off or something?
I mean, it's way more sequel bait than a lot of sequel bait that I've seen in the past. Because it's like, oh, we're planning the class trip to Paris, and it's like, okay, all right. But yeah, I feel like his plan is more to just humiliate her and then just leave her for quote unquote dead, as it were.
Okay. I think if his plan was to make her see things from his perspective, and then make her like realize that she has been an asshole, and maybe let her turn into more of a kind and better person, I would feel better about this whole setup.
But no, it's just he wants his revenge, and he wants it now.
It's all for his own gratification then.
Yes.
Okay.
He has, like I said, he starts trying to make up these plans to, if I'm like really sweet to her and I just go out of my way to be nice to her, then I can win her over and whatnot. And, it's not that simple. In real life, it's not that simple, which I kind of like that, it's not as straightforward as he would hope. Apparently, Aki comes from some degree of money as well because she has a couple of servants. One of them is, student. One of them is a student who is the same age as her. Uh-huh. And it's this girl, Yoshino. And Yoshino is like, sort of nudges Masamune and is like, hey, I'm sort of sick of her shit too. Stick with me, kid, and we'll go far.
Oh, okay. They form a partnership then. All right.
Yes. And, oh boy, it doesn't, again, plans are made and they don't go quite the way they're supposed to. Ever.
So is this like more laugh out loud slapstick comedy? Is it more like snarky, evil commentary with kind of a nice in quotes, mean spiritedness, or
there's a lot of snark that goes around, but when it comes to, Masamune's mess ups, I feel like I got genuine laughs out of this show, so I feel like there is some room for both snark and laugh out loud.
Okay. That sounds good.
Mostly because, in my notes I listed as both a pro and a con that the show has a silly, stupid premise. And if, you can't really get on board with this whole revenge plot because, understandably, I get why people might be turned off to, you're trying to, hit on this girl just so you can kick her when she's down. And that is mean-spirited. But even though, we really don't get there with this season, I feel like there's enough stupidity in there to be like, all right. Simply because Masamune is his own foil most of the time.
Well, okay then. If it was like... I mean, the setup is kind of morally questionable, but if the character is not like this super master planner, and it is made clear in the show that he's actually just fucking. I feel like
he thinks he is, but he's really not.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe that eases a bit of the negative punch then, and makes it less uncomfortable to watch.
I mean, things get a little more complicated because there's this. Merlin, lay back down. No looking out the window and growling. Yes, there's a bird flying by. You can chill out. Right. Things also get a little complicated because there's this other girl that shows up named Neko, and she has the hots for Masamune, but she's very conniving because, she sees that Masamune is interested in Aki, but she at first doesn't understand the nature of his attraction to her. So there's a lot of weird back and forth like that and, misunderstanding that, she wants to be with him, but she, doesn't quite get at first,
She thinks he's legitimately like in love with, the girl he actually wants to dump.
Yes.
I guess. Okay. Well, that makes sense. So we got like this weird love triangle that really isn't a love triangle.
Yes.
Because he does love the other girl. Well, yeah, that's I don't know. It's a funny setup though. How long do they dwell on that though? Do they dwell on that for like the entire run of the first season, or?
They dwell on it for maybe a third to a half of it. Just because Neko isn't introduced right away.
Okay, because that can get kind of old if they like do the same running jokes over and over again.
But when certain truths are revealed, the dynamics between the characters do change.
Okay,
and for as dumb and as goofy as this show is, I feel like the dynamics between the characters did make it interesting to watch. Even through the goof-ass nonsense premise of, this mean-spirited attitude that basically everyone has toward everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's another show we're going to be talking about later on in this season that deals with goof-ass characters that sort of they manage to get along through their idiocy. But yeah, I mean, if you like your high school rom-coms but want something a little bit different, and you can stand a little bit of mean-spiritedness, I feel like this show is worth watching, and we'll see if it's worth watching the second time around whenever the second season hits, because I feel like they've committed to it at this point with the cliffhanger that they put on at the end. But, at the same time, there's also other shows that's happened to. So, shrug. Maybe we'll see what kind of fun shenanigans Masamune can get himself into over in France.
Yeah. Is the revenge story always the focus, or do we have are there some filler episodes that are completely concentrating on other character dynamics and don't have Masamune trying to enact on his plans or something?
Everything is to further Masamune's master plan that he has drawn up in his head that he just can't execute on. That's the long and short.
Is there a blueprint that we as a viewer see in the beginning, and that he's like, okay, if I do this...
I wish.
This sounds a bit like a Death Note thing.
I only wish. We see in his bedroom sometimes, but he doesn't have a board up with a blueprint or stuff like that. It's it's a missed opportunity to get really goofy.
Hey, maybe we'll get in season 2. Who knows?
Maybe.
He pulls it out of a drawer and I had this the whole time, and and then shit gets real.
I hope so. I hope so.
At the beginning of Blue Exorcist, the protagonist Rin Okumura is really down on his luck. First, he gets kicked out of his part-time job, then he finds out some demons are after him because he apparently is the son of Satan. Then his foster dad/priest dies when protecting him from said demonic forces. One of those truly shitty weeks.
No big deal, as you would every day.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, at his foster father's funeral, a man introduces himself as an old friend of his father's and the headmaster of the prestigious exorcism school, True Cross Academy. That man called Mephistopheles, who can also turn into a dog. Guess the series creator wanted to drive home that he has heard of Goethe's Faust. Picked the wrong breed of dog, though. Anyway, yeah, that dog in the anime is not a poodle. Anyway, that guy offers Rin the opportunity to become an exorcist like his father, and thus the chance to kick Satan's butt, because Rin doesn't want to have anything to do with old Clovenhoof. So yeah, Rin enrolls at the academy, where to his big surprise, it turns out his brother Yukio is working as a teacher, who he is not on the best of terms with, so that complicates things. Meanwhile, dark forces are trying to tear down the barriers between the human world, ACCA, and the demon realm, Gehenna. And since this is not enough to worry about, Rin also has his hands full with trying to become an exorcist, getting along with his brother, making new friends and enemies, and keeping under wrap that he is half demon, which is not that easy because he now has a tail, and and his demon power materializes in the form of blue bright flames, which also, of course, gives the name to the show. Yeah. So, Blue Exorcist is based on a manga by Kazue Kato, and it started its serialization in 2009, and it's still going. Now, in regards to its anime adaptations, plural, we got a similar case to D. Greyman, a series that I talked about in episode 19 of our show. Similar in the sense that, just like D. Greyman, Blue Exorcist already got an anime adaptation pretty early in its run, 2011 to be exact. Was produced by A1 Pictures, just like this new series that, I'm pretty much reviewing now. And the old run ran for 25 episodes. So it's been a while. Not as long as The Gray Man, which had like 10 years of downtime between each of its anime series, which is fucking long. I mean, people are complaining about the 3 years between, the Attack on Titan seasons.
It still boggles my mind that there was that amount of time between the seasons of The Gray Man.
Yeah, it's crazy. But still, 6 years for Blue Exorcist is also a long time. And just like The Gray Man, instead of opting for a reboot like Hunter x Hunter did, the new series, Blue Exorcist Kyoto Saga, decided to now continue the story where it left off in the old show. Kinda. Because things are a bit more problematic in this case. So here's the thing. While The Gray Man's first anime series had a pretty clear-cut ending that was in sync with what happened in the manga up to that point, Blue Exorcist decided to deviate from the source material at around the end of episode 15.
Ooh.
And started to insert anime-only story developments, that were exclusive to the anime. And went in a pretty different direction than the manga did. So I assume this happened because they knew they were running out of manga material and wanted to craft an original, kind of closed-off, satisfying anime ending, instead of leaving things more open-ended like The Gray Man did and other series that, followed the manga material, like, pretty closely. So now, this causes a bit of an issue for people who want to get into this anime series, because this new show, Kyoto Saga, like I said, continues the series on, so you can't get into it, without knowing the old stuff. Technically, Kyoto Saga takes place pretty much directly after episode 17 of the original anime series. All that came after that episode in the old show was anime-only material.
See, this sounds like a sort of Full Metal Alchemist situation.
Yeah, pretty much. Very comparable to that. But Full Metal Alchemist, again, opted for a reboot and, rushed through the story developments that already, were covered in the old show. For better or worse, in certain parts to its detriment, but, we're not reviewing that show. But, yeah, that's what I think about the first part of Brotherhood, because some parts just felt rushed because they were given not enough time. But, in this case, the problem is that, at this point, at the end of episode 17, some things already happened in the anime that didn't happen in the manga. And since the new series sticks close to the manga, we got a disconnect in certain parts here. Let me explain. For example, a rather big enemy that was already killed in the anime is still alive in the manga, and Rin's friends, who all found out that he is the son of Satan at this point, kind of made peace with that fact in the anime already, but not in the manga. So if you watch the old show up to episode 17 and then switch over to Kyoto Saga, you're wondering why everyone is being so fucking cold to Rin all of a sudden again.
Oops.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't match up. It's like, okay, did I miss something? Why do these characters behave completely different now from where I left off? So yeah, that's a problem. Well, of course, you might say, then I'll just, switch at the end of episode 15, because that's when things started changing, right? You could, but then you're missing out on some pretty important story beats and introduction of characters that don't really get a decent recap or proper introduction at the beginning of the new show. So yeah, someone fucked up here. You basically cannot have a flawless connected viewing experience if you go anime only. And in my opinion, it was totally unnecessary. They could have started the new show with the events that took place in episode 15, which was a big battle and would have made for a great showstopper introduction to the series, for new viewers. Then, from that point on, just stick closely to the manga this time and continue from there as planned. I have no idea why they didn't do it. Maybe because they would have needed to, more episodes to tell a story in one season or something like that, or would have compressed stuff too much. I don't know. But yeah, like this, if you're coming over from the old show, you don't have like a perfect, jumping off point to get into the new show. And that's kind of a shame. Because, in my opinion, this could have been avoided. As it stands, if you want to mostly watch the anime, but also want the story closest to the manga, you pretty much gotta watch the anime until the end of episode 15, then read chapter 14 and 15 of the manga, and then watch the new anime series Blue Exorcist Kyoto Saga. It's kind of dumb.
a lot of work.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of work. It kind of isn't. but it's still dumb. I don't know why they did it this way. It feels really weird. I mean, I get why you want to stick closer to the manga with the new adaptation, but you still need to cover the ground that was left between this and the old series for people who didn't read the manga and only watch the show. So it's kind of dumb. Like I said, someone fucked up. I don't know who's responsible for that decision, but it was a bad decision. Still, I think it's worth going through all that, however you want to manage it. If you want to watch the old show and say, okay, I am aware now that this and that didn't happen in the manga, let's go over to the new show and everything. Or if you just want to, basically follow the plan I just laid out a few moments ago. And, watch a bit of anime, read a bit of manga, and then go back to the anime. That's, your choice. But I think it's worth it if you dig shonen action series, because Blue Exorcist has a lot of stuff to offer, in my opinion. It's mostly really well animated, which is a plus considering it's coming from A1 Pictures, and it's not Sword Art Online. So,
and it's not working.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's really good stuff. The old show also holds up really well today in the animation department, in my opinion. Music is by Hiroyuki Sawano, which is always a treat, in my opinion. Even though this is not one of his strongest soundtracks, I think he was still, when he was doing the soundtrack for the old show, he was still trying to find his shtick, his pure style. And since he's going back to, the old style for the continuation of the story, it's like, okay, you have done better stuff since then. But anyway, it's still good stuff. It's still Sawano. Even in his weaker soundtracks, it sounds good. Director of the old show is Tensai Okamura, who worked on a lot of good Bone stuff like Wolf's Rain, Darker Than Black, and Razefon, but also on a bunch of other famous things like Neon Genesis Evangelion, Ghost in the Shell, Cowboy Bebop.
Wow.
The director of the new show is Koichi Hatsumi, who doesn't have quite as impressive of a resume as Okamura, but still he worked on the Berserk movies, which, I have mixed feelings on. The hand-drawn stuff in those movies looks amazing and everything, and, the action and the story is well comprised, but, the CG, blah. He also worked on Gundam Unicorn. So yeah, just in regards to the action direction, the show has some pretty great dynamic visuals to offer, nice backgrounds, just, everything in that show, in my opinion, looks really cool. The character roster is also pretty good. Rin is a sympathetic main character. I could always empathize with him, and, his brother is kind of a stuck-up asshole at the beginning, but there's a reason for that, and, we learn why, and it's understandable too. And Rin's quasi-love interest, Shimi, is probably one of the nicest, most huggable female anime characters in existence.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't love that girl by, the end of the episode she's introduced in, I don't know what happened to your heart. Do you even have one? Like, she's a really nice person, like a really good person. It's like, I would love to be friends with that girl. She seems like a really nice person.
Is she your waifu?
No, not really. Maybe she was at some point. Maybe. When I watched the old show, maybe, yeah. But yeah, she's pretty great. A lot of other great characters to highlight here would be his dad. Although we don't learn much, Rin's dad, foster father, we don't learn that much about him until parts of the second season. But he's still a cool character, just design-wise and everything. And also Rin's kinda rival, Ryuji, is pretty great. He starts out like hating Rin's guts because he thinks Rin isn't, taking the whole exorcism stuff seriously. But their relationship develops in a pretty interesting way and, gets its big turning point and payoff in this new season. So if you are a fan of their dynamic from the old show, this new series is especially rewarding in that regard. Rin also gets an adorable cat demon pet called Kuro, which can turn into a giant version of itself so that Rin can ride it into battle. So what's not to love? It's like a badass anime version of He-Man. But anyway, yeah, good stuff. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff to to love in that show. If you love standard shonen fare, it doesn't really go beyond that, but it doesn't need to, in my opinion. Like, for stories like that, good animation, interesting characters is enough to make it work. And the action is cool, sometimes really great. So I recommend this show to everyone who digs shonen shows like Naruto, Hunter x Hunter, Yu Yu Hakusho, Bleach, stuff like that. You'll probably like what's, on the plate here. The only barrier of entry is the problem with the anime-only material I mentioned earlier. But if you can work past that, which is not exactly difficult, you will probably have some fun with that show. I hope we get a new season soon, since the manga is still running, and they got a lot more material left to adapt now. And I'm definitely looking forward to more. Blue Exorcist, very fun show. Just a bit complicated to watch all the way through.
It just sounds like you need to take a few left and right turns before you can get the full picture from the anime.
Yeah. But, maybe for some people, working to get the best viewing experience will make it more rewarding. I don't know. That's for you people to decide.
So, the last show that we're going to talk about today is ACCA, the big political intrigue anime that we had this past season. What grabbed my interest initially was seeing, Madhouse stamped on it. So
yeah, same for me. I'm a sucker for Madhouse stuff. Usually. Yeah. They have done some stinkers too, but still.
Like Prince of Stride.
Yeah.
Well, you got to make the money somehow.
Or as people like to call it, lesser free. Anyway, continue, please.
So, ACCA is based on a manga by Natsume Ono, who's done other stuff like House of Five Leaves and Ristorante Paradiso, neither of which I'm super familiar with, but
I've heard the titles, but I haven't.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard those. I feel like I've heard of House of Five Leaves, but I don't know much beyond that. It was directed by Shingo Natsume, who's worked on great stuff like One Punch Man and Space Dandy. We had composition by Tomohiro Suzuki, who's worked on One Punch Man, one of the Saint Seiyas, Tiger and Bunny. Mm-hmm. And music by Ryo Takahashi, who I'm not as familiar with. He's done stuff for, I guess, the animated adaptation of Code Realize, High School DD. So there's something cerebral for you. And
ACCA has very pleasant music. Like, it's, do you call it jazzy? I don't know.
Oh, definitely, I would. It's like easy listening, very light jazz. Yeah. So, what is ACCA about? Well, it's
Good
about
question. Food.
Well, food is in there, yes. Food and sweets and candies. Uh-huh. The Kingdom of Dowa is basically separated into 13 independent states. And these states have, several organizations within them. They're overseen by the civilian operation known as ACCA. Mm-hmm. Gene Otis, our would-be hero, is second in command of ACCA's investigation department. And it's an agency that basically keeps tabs on the actions of ACCA's branches all throughout Dowa. Gene's duties include traveling to other states to audit the actions of the other branches. And when the investigation department is on the chopping block, Gene discovers through his travels that, there's a little bit of corruption going on in other branches. And basically his discoveries, show that, hey, maybe we need to keep the investigation department around. So he, I'd say, more or less single-handedly saves the investigation department's future. And he kind of discovers through more of his travels that there's something of an amount of unrest amongst the citizens of many of the other states, and there is this brewing plot to overthrow the monarchy. In Gene's further discoveries, sort of start to unravel startling insights into his past.
Yeah, there's some twists and turns in the show, and
it's hard to figure out where to start because I feel like the one big criticism of this story is that it's a slow burn.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, it's a lot of the series feels like a road trip, like through the various distinctive districts of the kingdom, and the show telling us about the daily lives and dreams of the people living there. So if you expect like a straightforward plot, which is like, okay, now we got this twist relating to the coup, and now this is happening, it's not that straightforward. Like, there's always a bit of truth revealed here and there, but it's not like this super dramatic politic intrigue thriller. It's got a much more laid-back pace and atmosphere to it, and it also meanders a lot.
I kind of feel like that it's a collection of backstories that come together to form an overarching narrative, and I kind of like that.
It's kind of like, it's important that, you know, we learn so much about the districts that Otis visits, because it's like, it goes back, or it relates to the importance or the, you know, why certain characters decide to behave certain ways in the finale of the series, or, you know, what their conclusion is, and why they do certain things, like the uniqueness of the district and how people are treated there, and, you know, all that, you know, comes back and, you know, is important to the payoff of the show and to certain character motivations. And, you know, if we didn't spend that much time in different districts and with the people there, maybe that wouldn't feel so, you know, that wouldn't feel so relatable and so important. And, you know, you're like, why are these characters doing that? No, you know, it makes sense they're doing that because they're, you know, what we experience in these districts is important, and it all comes back to that. So yeah, if you keep that in mind, that all you're seeing kind of is important, you know, to the emotional state and decisions of certain characters, maybe it will feel more relevant to you. But if you don't do that, a lot of this show feels like, okay, we're just visiting this town now and looking at all the food in this town. And and a lot of talk about bread and sweets and everything, and that's not unlike in Food Wars, where a lot of the shows, or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, a lot of characters have like food names. In JoJo's Adventure, a lot of characters have names related to music. It's just a part of style of that show. Just the food stuff is not directly related to the story. It just underlines like the variety of the districts and everything. And hey, everything of this is worthwhile, and it's worthwhile in its own way. So
I just love, speaking of that, Magi is constantly saying to Prince Schwan, you know, hey, sandwich bread is great, and it's like, yes, it is.
And Prince Schwan doesn't give a shit, and that is saying a lot, because he's an asshole character, but at certain points I was really relating to him in that regard. He was like, stop talking about the fucking bread, I don't give a shit. Yes, thank you. I mean, maybe that was the intention of the show, like make us sympathize with the quasi-villain. So, although he really isn't. I don't want to give much away, but yeah. Also, it's kind of found like to be the show a bit predictable in certain parts, mainly when it comes to like the puppet master, you know, the identity of the guy behind pulling the strings. I had that guy packed up like from the beginning. Yeah,
you did. I was like, no, there's no way. And then when it turned out to be the case, I was like, oh fuck, CC was right.
It's like that guy was always smirking a bit too much in certain parts of the show. And I mean, all of the characters are smirking in this show. Like, a lot of people in the show are smiling and smirking. It's eerie sometimes. But a smile, something about the smile of that guy and reaction to certain things was like, okay, he's the puppet master.
I think I was kind of thrown off a bit simply because of the fact that everyone had their own, you know, motivations that, you know.
And the show does kind of a good job in setting up a few red herrings. It's just like, if you follow your intuition in certain parts, it felt a bit predictable to me. But it's like a minor criticism. Another thing I would criticize about that show, some of its characters are really flat. And one of those characters, sadly, is the sister of the main character.
Yeah, Lata is kind of just there.
Yeah, she's a nothing of a character. She's just in the show for plot reasons and to look cute and eat a lot of food.
Yeah, I mean, I like her because she's the very sweet sisterly type, but beyond
definitely.
that, it was like, all right,
she's not unsympathetic or anything. She's just flat. Just I don't mean in a body type sense. I just mean as a character, she's just like you said, she's just there. She's there for her brother and everything, but they don't really have interesting conversations or something. She doesn't really have any character development to speak of. And she's always got like this, I don't know, this wide-eyed, like, deer caught in the headlights expression on her face, and it's always like, okay, what am I gonna eat today? I'm like, okay, switch over to an interesting character, please. Which was kind of a shame. I think they could have done something interesting with that, especially when it comes to, later developments in the show and, the background of her and Jean and everything. There could have been done something interesting with the character, and they kind of didn't. She's just a plot vehicle, and that was kind of a shame. That was a bit disappointing to me. Also, one has to wonder how she can stay so fucking thin while eating all those damn cakes and all that bread. I have no idea how she does it.
Anime.
Yeah, anime. So, like we said, the main plot is mostly about the mystery behind the coup and Jean's origin story. But aside from that, if you go into the show just for the main plot and the setup of, coup d'etat, politic intrigue, we're gonna have a lot of... We have some twists here and there. But like we said, that's not what the drive of this show. I mean, it's the drive, but the show does a lot of meandering in between its plot developments.
A lot of meandering.
Yeah, so be aware of that. But if you feel like you're in the mood for something a bit more laid back with a slower pace, but still some interesting stuff to say and some interesting vistas and visuals. Good point. John, do you want to... because that was another thing that was, I don't know, a show that I think both drew us... a thing that both drew us to the show.
It's very visually striking. Like, I mean, especially the character designs. Ono's designs are like very... I don't know how to concretely describe it. They feel very out of the norm compared to a lot of the stuff that, I feel like I'm used to seeing, though.
Yeah, the characters are lanky, a bit lanky.
Yeah.
But I know they have like this... I don't know, most of them have like this suave stagger to them. And like I said, everyone has like this knowing smirk. So it all feels very stylish and, a bit off kilter here and there. But it's like just in a cool way. And I think we both loved the opening to this show.
Oh my God. The animation, Shadow and Truth is a great song. Like, I even noticed partway through, I think it was maybe episode 5 or 6, they changed the part at the end of the intro with the silhouettes so that, they kind of came on screen and moved much more in time with the music than it did. And that, like, when they made that small change, the intro went from great to just excellent, just top tier.
I'm always amazed that you noticed this kind of thing because I didn't. It's great.
I like looking for, sometimes intros go out and they're clearly not ready, and I could name a laundry list of shows. But, stuff like that, when they make like these small changes that make them, even stronger, that's attention to detail, and I love it.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be as creative as in, for example, Erased or something like that, where they completely change up the opening, which is also awesome. But, it doesn't have to make it, like, better. And also to say, there's not that much actual animation in the opening itself. There are a lot of, mostly still frames, but the character designs are so striking. and the way they're framed in the opening is so interesting, combined with the music, that it just works.
I feel like, but what there is of animation really stands out, like when the water drops and it clearly is meant to look like a crown.
Yeah,
and
maybe
then
even
that scene of what was her name, Mauve, just going up to Jean's ear and whispering in it, and the mouth movements are, in time with the lyrics, and I love that so much in intro sequences. Oh, it's the best.
Yeah, and I mean, that's probably even more powerful because a lot of that other stuff in the opening is still frames, and like you said, when the animation happens, it's an eye catcher. So yeah, great stuff, and that's that style continues throughout all of this series. Like, it just feels, I don't know, this feels like this series has just a great atmosphere and like these really varied visuals to it, because the districts are like we mentioned already, very distinct. You got like the snow district, you got like a mountain thing district, you got like a desert district, a farmer's district, you got like this district that has like big town that looks like Las Vegas with a lot of gambling in it. So you get a lot of interesting visuals in the show. Just for that alone, it's probably worth watching, because it's, if you think like, oh, it's, if he just goes to a different office building and just audits people there, that can't be interesting at all, especially if there's not much main plot happening in certain episodes. But, because the districts are so distinctive and feels kind of a road movie in certain parts, it's, there's a focus on the distinctiveness of those districts. And it's that distinctiveness is also, that uniqueness is also an important part of the story and, the messaging in the story in certain parts. So, yeah, it all works in a way. It's just slow.
Yeah, I mean, I think out of pretty much all the shows we're going to talk about this season, I feel like this one has the best sense of style.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Definitely. I think there was maybe one other show that might come close, but this one is definitely at the top of the heap.
Feels like it's the same kind of cool that I get from something right now, which is a current thing, Persona 5, which has still pretty weird and off-kilter designs in certain parts and unusual stuff. But it's like this kind of weird that it's pretty cool and unique that it's pretty cool, just because you don't see it that much or that kind of style that much. And that counts for ACCA as well, because, like you said, it's got a very unique design sensitivity when compared to, your usual anime stuff. And that goes for the story too, because this is a story that you don't see that much in anime. Just, because it's really slow paced, there are not that... The stakes are kind of high, but it's not like it's a super dramatic or violent show. Like, I think there isn't even any death in that show to begin with. Well, yeah, off screen maybe, but that's more like in a recap or something. It's not like happening to one of the actual characters. Like, there's a bit of violence, but not really. And you would expect like something with a setup, with a plot set up like a coup d'etat. There would like be, I don't know, it's like civil war scenarios or something that could happen. And a bit of that maybe is in there, but it's not. It's like handled with, I don't know, with a very non-violent hand.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're looking to this show for that sort of escalation, it doesn't get there.
It's not Code Geass.
No, it isn't. For better or for worse? Question mark.
Yeah, that's the question. It all depends on what you want from the show and how you go into it.
Right.
If you want like a riveting, action-driven, political thriller with sci-fi elements or something, you won't get that here at all. But the stakes are still kind of high, and the fun is more in seeing certain plans and twists playing out, than putting characters in peril or in dramatic action sequences or anything. Because, like I said, there's not much of that in this show. But if you want something different, if you want like something with a different pace, with a different look, with a different feel, with kind of different characters who are not all of them are super interesting, but enough are. And, just an anime that feels different from the norm. I think ACCA is the way to go. that would be something. Like, if you want to break out of the standard shonen fare stuff or the standard romcom stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm looking for something different that, isn't done that much in anime, story-wise and, style-wise, everything else. I think you should give ACCA a try. John, would you agree?
Oh, definitely. It was, like, for all of those things you just said, and it was nice to see something a little different for this sort of genre, a bit more slowed down, Yeah,
exactly. And, if the series would have gone for, more episodes, if it were like 52 or even 26 episodes, that would have been too much for this kind of pace, in my opinion. But but the 12 episodes it has is probably just right, to cover all the districts and, the character backgrounds and everything. Yeah, maybe it would have worked even better if it got half the number, who knows, but it didn't really overstay its welcome. It works. You just have to know what you're getting into and, be in the right mood to watch this stuff. This is like, again, going back to Flying Witch, because this is one of my most recent examples of shows like that, which has also a very laid-back pace. Yes, that show is much more, slice of lifey and everything, but, for that show, you also maybe be in the mood to watch it, because it's, it's a slow pace. It's very on the atmosphere and everything. And ACCA is the same too. Maybe if you want to, need to relax after work or something and want to watch something that lulls you in a bit. Still has some interesting things to say, but is a slow burn. ACCA is probably the way to go. It all depends on what you're, if you're in the mood for stuff like that. But, for a slow-paced show, this is a good show. This is a semi-interesting story and, pulled off pretty damn well, with some twists and turns here and there that are pretty interesting. So, yeah, I would say give it a try. If the spark hasn't, connected until the end of episode, what would you say, 3?
Yeah.
Then maybe, stop watching it if you're like, oh, this is too slow to me, this is too lame for me, because the pace doesn't change. Like, it ends pretty much as slow as it begins. So, yeah, if you're, like, not interested after 3 episodes, maybe, say, okay, that's that, and leave it behind. But if you're like, hey, this is nice, this is a nice, slow, different feel, I think I'm in the mood for that. Yeah, by all means, please continue watching. I think it's worth it, just because it's something different. And I see lightning outside, which means there will be thunder, so we should end this episode, because we shouldn't record while there's a thunderstorm that would interfere. Anyway, yeah, check out ACCA if you're in the mood for a slow but good burn. And that is a wrap on the 29th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vit.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and animebrainfreeze.com. Leave us comments and questions anywhere you like, or send us an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next show. Macht's gut.
See you later.
Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
A nerdy day trip turns into an extended stay.
And we'll join a shepherd on his journey to rid the world of malevolence.